Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome back to a brand new camp build, and we are in Charleston today, working on a rooftop build in one of the few locations that will actually allow us to do this. So let's jump in, take a look around this place, because I've been wanting to do this for quite a while. Okay then, so chilling out up on the rooftop. Let's have a little look at where we are first and foremost. As I say, just outside Charleston. It's one of my favourite areas of the map. So we're right by Charleston Station here, which is a very popular corner of the map, so loading in is a bit awkward on occasion, but it's a good spot. See Poseidon, AVR Medical, and the Charleston Capitol building not too far away. Nice little spot to hang out in. So before we dive into the actual build, just a little caveat that unfortunately for some reason OBS decided I didn't need the game audio for this first section, so we'll have to do without the building sounds. But with that out the way, let's have a look. So we've got the first foundation in it already, which took quite a while to get lined up, so there's a lot of patience required for this build. Got to make sure it's sitting basically on that bit of metal coving there, and it needs to clip ever so slightly into the walls. So a lot of delete and start over required to get this into the right place, and a lot of patience. So rather than spending 20 minutes trying to get that in, we'll just start with it in place. So this back corner is definitely the easiest place to do it. Make sure everything's lined up in. Once you get it right, as you can see, everything will snap in just fine. And so you need to test it and do this a few times to make sure everything's in the right place, because sometimes it'll have a tendency to clip through the walls or not line up properly, that sort of thing. So a little bit of patience required, but there we go. So that's the rooftop entirely finished off. We do need the foundations up there so we can place stuff on. You can see we've got nothing clipping through there. So let's move on to the hardest bit, which is getting access to this rooftop without actually having to jump up the side of the building. So need to build a staircase in here, and with this build it's kind of in three sections. There's that top section we've just done, there's this bit we're working on now, and another bit we're going to come to in a minute. There's more like three structures than one, really. So we're going to try and line this foundation up so that it matches up with the two walls here, so it's sort of, you know, the angles are right and it follows the lines of the walls in a nice parallel. So a little bit of eyeballing needed. Unfortunately the debris and such mean we can't get close as I'd like to, but in this case, it's actually not a bad thing. Use that second one just to make sure the line's right. And then we'll move it over because this is actually the place we're going to start. Just a little bit out from the walls here. So there we go. Drop that down. And this is going to need to be 2 staircases high, so we're going to have to do a little bit of trial and error yet again. There's a lot of it in this build. Just to make sure we get the height of these foundations right so that the stairs will meet up with the level of the foundations on the roof up there. So the idea is that when we put a floor piece on the top stair, it should just sit nicely up against that foundation up there. So obviously for now we are way too high up. We're actually a little too close to the section of the rooftop with the foundations on there as well. We'll need to move it over in just a moment. We'll get that pulled down again, drop this foundation down. It's as low as it's going, without jumping around anyway. So we'll try again, see how this looks. When the server catches up, there we go. Get another floor in. Stick a staircase on. You can probably tell already we're still a little bit too high. Obviously this is not going to be the final shape of it, it's just the sort of guide for the height and the positioning. So yeah, way too high there. Unfortunately, as we said before, this is as low as this particular foundation will go, so we're going to have to extend the line of foundations out and down the road a little bit so that we can actually drop it a little bit lower. So pull that one out, and we'll snap this one on the side. See, we drop it a little bit further down. It's nowhere near enough, so we'll extend down the road a bit, so we've got a bit more space to lower the foundation down. One's not going to go either. So we'll go again. Actually easiest to take it about as far down as we can go, all the way down to the edge of the build area, really. Can even do one more from here, which we'll do in a moment. It's a little bit lower. Let's see how that does. We'll sort of leapfrog these foundations back up the road again so they're in place. You can see we are very, very close to the surface of the road with that one now. Snap that stair back in. The floor, the staircase, and we'll see how we're doing. Now, that's pretty close. We're actually about the thickness of one floor piece too high here, and as I say, still a little bit too far over, too close to the section that we're standing on now. So it'll need moving back a little bit. So we'll head down the bottom and adjust this, nudge it a bit further up the road, drop it down a tiny little bit further as well, which I've already done. So there we go. Grab this foundation, we'll leapfrog our way back into place. There we go. Don't really need that one there, we can snap it to this one that's in the middle of the road for now. And back up to the top, this should be about right now. As you can probably guess, I've cut out a lot of the efforts and attempts until I actually got this right. So there we go, nice and flush. You do need to get it exactly right, otherwise the walls and the foundations and everything else will just interfere with it. But we've got there. So, let's make this actually a little bit more reasonable since we can't currently access the top of that stair without really jumping around or falling off. We can't snap a staircase onto the end there because I can't get a foundation under this big heap of rubble by the building. So, we're going to have to work around a little bit and come around the corner of the building. So, we'll pull this structure down and move a set of foundations in just on the pavement there a little bit closer to the building. See, that one's not going in either. This one will, so we'll have to start here. Put that one in. Weather's gone down the pan on me, but what can we do? And we'll switch to this staircase with a frame and the floor attached, as it'll sort of tuck in on the right angle and we can snap floors to it quite nicely without it sticking out too far into the road this way. So, play around. Ended up settling on a large one and a small floor here, just to fill the gap, but much changing of my mind was required here. But for now, 3 regular ones will do the job. Or 2, whichever I went with. We'll get the staircase in, because it does need to snap to what is effectively the middle there. So we're going to need one in front of the bottom here, so that we can actually get around the corner of the staircase. But, when we put this floor in, it should now match up. There we go, everything's still in the right place. And we basically have what will be the skeleton of our main entryway, which will need dressing up during the decoration phase. So, next up we want a roof on this building that we're looking at now, or rather a building on the roof of it, sorry. So, same thing again with the trial and error needed to make sure we've got those foundations in place. Got to get the heights right, got to get the position right, which is going to take ages, so we'll skip on ahead to the point where I've actually already got these in the right place. You can see here we're right up against the wall, we're actually clipping into it just a tiny little bit there, and we're just a little bit left of the corner there. So there's a little bit of overlap there, tiny little bit of clipping going on, but we have it in the right place. I'm going to sort of build around this corner of the building as well in a bit. So, skipping over the trial and error, as it's basically the same thing we've just seen, but in a slightly different location. We'll get the staircase in. And the reason I need to actually build the structure up from the ground here is in order to put something on this roof, it needs to be supported. The roof won't do that, and I also can't snap anything to the foundations on the roof over the other side that we put in first, so I'll have to come up from the ground on this side. So I'll get the staircases in, change them out so they're a bit more interesting. And that wants to snap, because of course it's finicky. There we go. And now we can put the roof in. Well, the floor, rather. Keep wanting to call it a roof, I don't know why. It's a floor over a roof, that's why. So I've used a half floor here at the top of the stairs, but I'll actually be changing it out for a full-size one in a bit. But either does work, but for the design I'm going for, it looks better with the full-size one. Works better. There we go, got the full floor in. And looking here with the trial and errors to make sure that it matches up partially with the roof, but mainly with these foundations, because as we can't snap it in, I want access up there from this floor without having to jump. So I'm going to put a ramp in here, as it's one of the few things I can actually put in that will sort of raise the path up to the right level. So in order to get this to work properly, a lot of careful positioning is required so that that piece will sit nice and flush with the edge of that ramp. We also have to make sure that this back corner on the right here, where the building sticks up, will snap into place, otherwise the collision will get in the way on that corner. So, floor's in place, access to this level available from the lower section of roof. Let's get some walls in and actually put a house up here, so I've got some accommodation for my character. So my original idea was to make this whole thing a single building, but unfortunately lining things up with doorways was not going to work. Obviously, as those half floors snap to one side or the other, not the middle, and the doorways are in the middle, so I can't unfortunately put a full-size floor in next to the ramp either, so needs must, we'll have to have a little walk away around the outside, which it works. I'm quite happy with the result, especially once we decorate it up. We've got the walls in there. As you can see, the problem I've got right now is that once I put this roof on, it's not going to fit, at least on this right-hand corner, because we are 1.5 floors wide and we don't have any half-width roofs. So it's an all-or-nothing situation. See the little problem there. Stick that roof on for now. And we'll shunt this wall over a little bit, and we'll have the walkway go around the outside of the building. Chuck that one down, as it's going to save me rummaging through the menus. Find this half wall somewhere. Really could do with an overhaul on the building menus. They're getting very, very cumbersome now. And there we go. So we'll spin around to the other side and close up this side. We're going to end up with a kind of L-shaped house. So there's the door. Wall's right there. Come on, found it. Now let's stick some roofs on. So mixing up the wood and the greenhouse pieces here, so we can have some slightly different windows, just to make things a little bit more interesting, to change the shape up a little bit so it's not too boxy. So it's not absolutely essential, but it does work quite nicely. There we go. I'm actually going to change these walls out because they look a little bland in this build, this particular wall texture, the plain wood one. Last roof on, there we go. But for now, we have the core structure in place. So we're going to put some railings on just to make sure I don't go plummeting off this upper walkway. Unfortunately, for now, the rails won't snap to the edge of upper floors. They'll only snap to foundations, which is still kind of annoying. I'll wait for the next patch when they're due to be fixed. Hopefully that will occur. But for now, we're going to use these vault ones because these actually will go in place okay. One of the cool things about them, though, is if you actually get them in exactly the right place to start with, they're quite easy to follow around. And if it's not in exactly the right place, it's immediately obvious. As you can see, that won't snap because the angle's not quite right. So we'll tweak it a little bit. I'll snap that on, and it'll go around the corner quite nicely. That. It's easy enough to adjust and tweak once you've had a little play with it as well. It's not too bad, this thing. These railings. I like the fact that we've got inverted corners as well. That's definitely a nice little addition on those. Run straight along the line here. It's a bit too big. I need half, or a third and 2/3 or something like that. So then it matches up. And there we go. You know, half, quarter, third. I don't know, they're weird sizes, these things, but it works. So there we go. The core part is there. Still a little bit of building to do. But the thing is starting to come together. So, first up, I want to kind of break up the shape of this a little bit. And not too happy with that half window at the top as well. So, initially tried with these greenhouse doorways just to make it look a little bit more light and airy. I'm going to put a balcony on here again just to break up that front shape. But one of the big problems with this is that another thing that got broken with the arrival of Steel Dawn was that we can no longer put the metal posts underneath floors. They need to snap to foundations, not the floors above, which is very, very annoying. And means, unfortunately, this house is going to be slightly floating. Hopefully after the patch I'll be able to sneak some posts in there and fix it up a little bit, but for now we'll have to make do. But one of the other bonuses with that little balcony that I just attached before is that it will to some extent hide the fact that it's floating, so that's not such a bad thing. So, tidying up the staircase, we're going to just build around the foundations here. We're going to actually extend this around the corner a little bit, and I'll use it as a kind of, not exactly a workshop, it's going to be where my generator is, but I'm going to make it look like it's a workshop when I decorate it as well. I've extended the foundation out a little bit here, just to give us a bit of room to get around the staircase. Let's get a door on here. Constantly mixing up those textures using different things. Now, for some reason these stairs don't want to work. but the concrete ones will. Actually ended up swapping it out for a ramp, because that did work here. Oddly, when it was one piece further back, I couldn't get the ramp to go in, but it did work okay there. Now, we'll close up the top here, and for this I'm going to use floors rather than roofs. In that corner, largely because I want to swap it for a mesh one, that I will then run a wire through and then convert back to the wooden one, so that the wire basically goes straight through the floor. It's much tidier that way. But over on this side, I did try with the roof initially, but as you can see, the building is preventing me from snapping that in. The flat one will go in, but that then presents other problems in just a moment, as I want to close up the top of this staircase so that it's not exposed and open to the elements. So stick a roof on there. And now I need a wall at the back here, and therein lies the problem. Because another thing, along with Steel Dawn, it seemed to cause a few issues with the building system, is that we can no longer snap that wall onto the top of a roof. I would have to have a wall at the bottom of the stairs, which, for obvious reasons, doesn't work very well. So, rather than using the roof, I'm going to go around the outside, put a floor over the top, and basically have a balcony here, and then we'll put a kind of guard post on this corner just to make use of the space. So put a floor around here. And now we can get the walls in. Obviously, we do have to go around the outside because that floor has to be directly connected to a staircase. Just to make life a little bit more complicated for us. Unfortunately, this wall is insisting on snapping the wrong way around. I did want to try and put another floor in there to force it to go the right way around, but no dice because of the stairs. So that will have to do as is. So, structure is kind of coming together now and nearly there. Unfortunately, it does look a little bit on the drab side with that wooden walled structure at the top. So, a few adjustments. We'll put some of the barn walls in there, gives it a little splash of colour and makes it look a bit more interesting. Now we've got extensive junk walls to place around the lower levels and just generally complete the build. But, as this took absolutely ages, I'm going to move on and start the tour rather than show you way too much of the decoration. So, let's have a little look around the place. Starting out the back here, see, I spent a lot of time decorating this, so if you would actually like to have a look at a decent chunk of the decoration, I did a fair bit of it on stream last night, so I will put a link down in the description that jumps straight to that bit of decoration if you do want to have a look at me doing that. But as you can see, we have decorated extensively and completed this place out. So just behind me is where Charleston Station is, and we get a lot of super mutants spawning over there. So with my little power armor stand here and my farm out the back, I figured some decent defences were needed. I don't normally go to town on the turrets, but it's just quite a busy spawn area, so it's worth having a few. Standard little power armor stand in the corner there. Nothing too over the top, but I didn't really want it up top, so I didn't really have the space either, so down here it is. A lot of posters on this otherwise blank stretch of wall here, just to break up that texture a little bit, make it a little bit more interesting for the eye. Same with the junk fences and stuff, just pressed up against the foundations there, just to break up the textures, make the surface a bit more interesting to look at. So here I was actually able to snap foundations onto the side of the ones that are supporting the building, so that I could use them as a guide for putting those posts in, but for the rest of the building, unfortunately, I wasn't able to put any posts in, so needs must, we have to do it what we can, but at least that side looks supported. There we are. Nice little guard post on the top. Plenty of junk fences. I also used the brambles that I finally picked up a few weeks ago, just to kind of fill up the dirt around the outside of the build here, because otherwise it looks very, very scruffy and unfinished, so those really help with that. You can see around the staircase here, I've snapped a couple of walls onto the foundations and the stairs, but I've also lent a load of junk fences up against it, just to kind of close it off and make it look a little bit more solid rather than the spindly state we left it in before. Yeah, so you got loads of stuff going on at the top there, and a little turret out on this side, just to cover that front door, because this is the sort of public entrance to the camp. The other door I've locked off just because I know it'll get left wide open all the time if I don't. So this is intended to be left open so that any visitors can come in and out when they would like to. So very rough and ready and simple down here. Unfortunately, the lay of the land limits what we can do. But reasonably solid. We can head up a level and get into the bit that looks way, way more complete. Fortunately, that's the one bit I'm not quite happy with, is the bottom layer around these stairs. So a couple of guard posts, a few extra bits and pieces of decoration up here. Got a few posters on the wall again, just to break up the otherwise blank textures. The Vault-Tec flag billowing nicely in the wind there. Squeezed in a picket fence because there's nothing else that fits in the gap there. And up to the first section that we built. You can see, nice easy transition onto the rooftop here. Really pleased with how well that bit came together. This is where we've got our vendors. This is effectively the set piece. As you can see, the thing is kind of floating on the roof there a little bit, but sadly not much we can do about that. So we've got our vendors in. I've squeezed all the workbenches up here as well, apart from the power armor and the cooking station, which we've seen and will see. I've got a couple of bits of decoration there. I wanted to make sure that lower section of roof didn't invite people to just plummet right off of it, but plenty of space up here, all the workbenches, all the vendors. Doc Solomon hanging out just around the corner here. It's not a lot of space for him, but just about enough room to tuck him in the corner there. It's nice. If I'd had a bit more room, I might have put a gurney in there or something for him, but I did not have the space. I just squeezed the decon arch in there as well, which I'm quite happy about. I want to do something different rather than just using the symptomatic like I usually do. Got a few of the hanging cage lights from the daily ops as well, that I've got about 1 million plans for, so making good use of those. I do like those things. Although I am a little tired of getting the plans from daily ops all the time. And we'll head up to the house level. A few bits of decoration out on the walkway here, just make it look a little bit more interesting. I tucked a guard post on the end, so we can cover the farm and the back side of the build here if we need to. Let's have a look around the house. This is definitely one of my favourite bits. Such a tiny little house, but I managed to cram plenty of detail in here and I really like it. So, bedroom down this end. Bobblehead stand. Fortunately, I have filled out the budget with decoration on this one, so couldn't actually fill up the bobblehead stand, but a few extra bits on the desk. I put a doormat on there just to kind of look like a writing surface. Shelf with some plants over the little hammock bed there. It was easier to get those plants on by putting the shelf on the wall outside, positioning the plants on manually and then moving the whole lot inside incidentally. Got Nuka-Cola display up there on the top of the, actually a stash box of these little bookshelves, but nice to have some bookshelves that have actually got something on them. So quite happy about that addition with the Atomic Shop, really glad I picked those up. A little sideboard here with decoration. Graham plushie hanging out on the hunting lodge sofa. Little kitty on top of another bookcase there, just to separate off the kitchen, which is very, very small, but has got the essentials in. Actually, I haven't got a sink in here now, think about it. Maybe we should tuck one in behind the fridge there. But we've got a cooking station, we've got somewhere to sit down and eat. That's the important stuff. A Blue Ridge Caravan flag up there. Put a lot of time in trying to get that, so gonna use it. Use the circus trailer doors here just to do something a bit different for access to this tiny little balcony. A couple of benches out here, not a lot of room, and I still want to be able to move around, so went for narrow benches up on this one. As you can see, decent view out over the area. Looks particularly nice in the evening, this corner of Charleston, so nice spot to hang out this camp. I'm really happy with it from that regard. Really the decoration that has brought the whole thing from a spindly, scrappy looking mess to a fully fleshed out camp, as it so often is. We'll head on out and have a little look around the other side of the build. A couple of ammo boxes there, stash boxes, so that we look like the guard post is a bit more complete. See down towards Charleston Station here. That little pond being a very, very popular place for people to build. So I imagine I'll have to do a fair few server hops to find a world I can actually load my camp into, but it'll be worth it, I think. So down the stairs, I had a little bit of space here that I wasn't sure what to do with, so I thought kind of garden type deal, little rooftop garden and hangout space would be quite nice up here. I've crammed everything in, but we can still get around, so looking good, I think. We'll come around the corner. Not quite as much happening around this side, but a place for somebody to chill out and guard this side of the building. Seat there and somewhere to stand with a bit of cover. Tucked a turret on the corner. Because obviously that concrete barricade doesn't quite fit on the corner of the floor there. It's not quite the 90 degrees we could do with it being. Get a little swing around and back down the stairs. A few bits and pieces on the wall there, again just breaking up those surfaces. The flags are really good for that. and down into a kind of workshop type deal around our generator room here. I really like that little sort of Nuka-Cola mural on the wall that's kind of faded away there. Something a bit different and a bit unique, and I'd love to have something similar to build with, but nice to have that included in the camp. A little crafting, well, not exactly crafting space, but kind of looks like a workbench in the corner there. That TV is supposed to be switched off, but every time I log in, log out, go somewhere else, basically every time I pass through a loading screen, that thing seems to switch back on for some reason. There we go, generator tucked in the corner. Unfortunately, it's a bit big for the foundations, but what can we do? You can see the wire running up through the floor there in the corner. That is why I initially put that floor up there. So if you just convert it to a mesh floor, you can just run the wire straight through and then convert it back, and it's much neater and tidier. A couple of stash boxes just to round things out. We'll head out the door, swing back around the back side of the build. There's one thing that I'm a little saddened about with this build is that the green glow at night from the vendors is a bit obnoxious, but other than that, pretty happy with how this came out. Mix of scrappy and homely, so yeah, I think I will probably be staying here a while. So I do hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please do consider dropping likes and subs for me. It's always very, very much appreciated. Social media links, the merch store, and channel memberships, all available down below the video as well in the description. If you would like to support the channel in that way, it's very, very much appreciated and massively helps out. So thank you very much to everyone who's done that already. And if you get a chance to join us for some of the live streams as well, we'll link to the one where I decorated this as well down below. As we're having a lot of fun with Fallout and playing Remnant from the Ashes on the side as well. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.